Chapter 3. He smiled kindly as the rest of the dwarves finished cleaning out the pantry. I couldn't understand why he wasn't on our side, but a gut feeling told me to trust the wizard. I listened with slight amusement as Bilbo was following the dwarves around, telling them to leave things where they were. It was no use. "It appears we are one dwarf short," Gandalf said, doing a head count. I joined Bilbo, grabbing things from the dwarves that were important to the family. Things like crystal bottles and irreplaceable plates. "He is late, that is all," Dwyn told him, leaning against the door frame. "He traveled north to a meeting of our kin. He will be here." "The food is all ready," one of the 12 dwarves called out. I slowly peered into the dining hall where the dwarves sat. I pulled up a chair from the hall and ignored Bilbo, who tried to talk me out of it. There was no use trying to fight it. "Someone hand me an ale," I shouted from my seat. The group cheered and soon an ale was shoved into my hand. I took a big gulp and I ignored the comments from my brother behind me. Beside me, a shorter dwarf with a funny-looking hat leaned towards me. "The name's Bofalias," he told me with a smile, putting his hand out. I took his hand, assuming he was aware of my name. Everyone seemed to know Bilbo and I, yet I had only been introduced to 5 of the 12 dwarves in my home. "YN. The you are. I was looking to introduce you to the majority of the company here," Gandalf said, putting a hand on my shoulder and guiding me to the head of the table. He left for a brief second to gather Bilbo, who was in a heated argument with a heavier-set dwarf about cheese knives. "YN and Bilbo, I would like to introduce you both to our company," Gandalf started, slowly pointed to each dwarf and telling us their names. Each dwarf gave a polite bow and smile. I tried to recall the names in my head after he finished. Bifur, Boffer, Bomber, Nori, Ori, Dori, Oin, Gloin, and of course the ones we had already met, the brothers, Balin, and Lin. I could feel myself beginning to get overwhelmed, and it was at times like these where I was thankful I had my brother. "Sorry Gandalf, didn't you say there was one more?" Bilbo asked, craning his neck up at the wizard behind him. "Ah yes," Gandalf trailed off, "that would be the leader of our company, Thorin Oakenshield." "And where's he?" I asked him. "He had somewhere else to be. Like I told the wizard, he is late," Dwyn told us. "Well, I should maybe get these cleaned up," I said, standing up with a plate in hand. "Nonsense, love," the blonde brother said, taking the plate away from me and throwing it to Keely. Bilbo gave a sharp yelp in surprise as the plate landed smoothly in Keely's hand. I put my hand over my mouth in surprise as the rest of the dwarves joined in. They sang and blew flutes while Bilbo and I watched in surprise. Soon the tune became merry and I found myself tapping along to its beat. The cups and bowls were eventually stacked up in a neat little pile. The dwarves cheered, and while Gandalf and I smiled in amusement, Bilbo had a frown printed on his face. One more knock on the door was enough for the whole of Bag End to lose its excitement. "He is here," Gandalf stated, turning quickly towards the door. The rest of us followed with Bilbo and I in the front. Gandalf opened the door and a taller dwarf stood at the entrance. He had long dark brown hair with some grey streaks running through. His beard was short, only just covering his cheeks and his chin. He carried himself with a regal presence and looked across the hall of dwarves before stepping inside. "I thought you said this place would be easy to find," the dwarf finally said, addressing Gandalf. His voice sent chills down my spine. Somehow it was soft and gruff at the same time. It was also quite deep, and I could tell he would be a good storyteller. I avoided eye contact with him, internally questioning why I suddenly felt so nervous. "I lost my way, twice," he told the wizard. Gandalf nodded, listening. It looked like it was taking a lot out of him not to roll his eyes. "In fact, I wouldn't have found it at all if it had not been for the mark on the door," he continued. "Mark?" I asked, surprised. "What mark?" There's no mark. The door was painted a week ago. I tried pushing past the two men to see the door. All my nerves from before were gone and replaced with frustration. That door cost Bilbo and I almost a week's salary. Gandalf shut it before I could get a look at it. There is a mark. Why N Baggins, I put it there myself. I sighed looking up at Gandalf. Was he serious? A mark on the door, and for what? He shook himself off and gestured to the tall dwarf behind him. Bilbo. Why N? I would like to introduce you to the leader of our company, Thorin Oakenshield.
I'm glad you enjoyed that video / gameplay. Just remember to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below. Until next time, goodbye!